Okay, it is now 6 o'clock, so I will call this meeting to order. I guess the first thing we're going to do is the Pledge of Allegiance. Do we have a flag to put up? Thank you, Scott. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you all for joining us tonight. Board members, have you had a chance to look at the agenda for this evening?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Is there any questions? I don't have any additions or corrections. If there isn't, do we have a motion?
Move to adopt. Yeah. Go ahead, Matt.
Second, whatever Marty was going to say.
All right. It has been moved by Marty and seconded by Matt to approve the agenda this evening. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Hearing none, the agenda has passed. So this evening, we do not have Superintendent Jesse with us. He is out of town. So our Assistant Superintendent, Brenda, will be giving the superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Davidson. Good evening, Shelton School Board. I just would like to report that we continue our work on our strategic plan. We had a very productive week last week. We spent the majority of the day Wednesday working on it. We had a morning session for 4 hours where the school administration gathered, all the principals, all the administrators, and we worked through all the behind the scenes stuff. And then later that evening, we had a 3-hour session with our steering committee. So we had made excellent progress last week. So we will be fine tuning and you will be hearing from Superintendent Jesse on our final product soon. I'm pleased to say that we are full force into our budget process already. The majority of our schools received their staffing allocations today. I'm fine tuning a few of those and we'll get them out first thing in the morning. I'm sure, as most of you know, this is a short budget session for the legislature. They're supposed to be done by March 10th. They did release the House and Senate budget this week, so I've been spending time comparing those two budgets, and they're not very alike at this point, but we'll stay tuned to what is happening there. We are changing our enrollment process too. So beginning March 1st, we do have a different process we're working on that will help expedite the numbers for budget too as we move forward. So I think this will be a better process overall for all of us. The English Learner Task Force continues. I believe Marianne has 2 more meetings she's heading up with that, and then she'll be bringing that to the school board in a presentation also. At this time, if it's okay with you, President Davidson, I would like to call on Robert Heron to give an update on the changes to the mask mandate for the Sheldon School District.
Yes, that would be great. Thank you, Robert, for your report.
Good evening, President Davidson and members and our directors. Washington State has recently provided updates to both indoor and outdoor mask mandates. Governor Inslee has identified March 21st as the date masks are no longer required indoors in schools and most other public places. As of February 18th, masks are no longer required outdoors. The Sheldon School District has already begun to transition towards safely implementing the changes outlined by the state and in coordination with the state and local health jurisdictions. Students are no longer required to wear masks outdoors, including recess. This will provide students with a welcome mask break throughout the day. At this time, masks are still required on school buses due to federal mandates that have yet to be withdrawn. We hope that the president will address those soon. On March 21st, the mask mandate for staff and students will expire, and the district will not require them. Mask usage will still be allowed for those who wish to continue to wear them, and we will continue to have masks available to those who request them. At this time, there are no changes to announce regarding social distancing, testing requirements, vaccine mandates or accommodations, or quarantine guidelines. Governor Inslee announced that additional information will be forthcoming to address some of those issues. We stand ready to open things further as they are allowed.
Great. Thank you very much, Robert, for that information and those updates. Brenda, did you have anything else left in your report?
Nope, that was the final item. Thank you.
Okay.
I have
thank
one
you.
question, President Davidson.
Yes.
Robert, are the school buses under the same criteria as transit on the TSA particular guidelines for masks through March 18th? Do you know?
I'm not certain of that. Brenda, you may actually be able to speak a little bit more to transportation.
I don't believe they are, Marty. I can confirm that though, but we were given specific direction that the school buses needed to continue with the masks until further notice. So
Okay, because it's different for transit, and I was just kind of curious if they were matched up, because typically they come from the same either US DOT or TSA. So, all right, thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments at this time for Brenda or Robert?
President Davidson, I do
Yes.
have a request, I suppose. We've all received a lot of emails lately, and there's been a lot of discussion about what is and isn't within a board's purview, and about the mask mandate and whatnot. And I know that you had put out a very succinct email about some of the other legal ramifications. And I wondered if we might just touch on that at this time before we move forward. If you could either, list off those, or if Brenda's got a list of those to.
Yeah, and Brenda, maybe you've got the list in front of you. I know that I did speak with our legal counsel on Friday, and I had forwarded to all of you the legal analysis around the mask or facial covering guidance in the state of Washington. And it does, did list how this is under the governor's legal action, and it is also under the purview of the state health department or our local health department. The whole email that I have, I don't have there in front of me, but it was just outlining some other implications if we were to do anything before the mask mandate. Essentially, we would be going against state law. And as board members, we have taken an oath to uphold state law. And we cannot put state employees, of which all of school district employees are, they are all state employees, and that includes nurses, counselors, teachers. We cannot put their certificates that they get through the state of Washington at risk either. We also did get information from our insurance carrier, which Brenda might have better details on that, as well as the funding that could be taken away, which is also a risk for school districts. Did you want to comment on that, Brenda?
Yes, I can. On the liability insurance and the funding, we did receive a letter, I believe, in anticipation of Governor Inslee taking action on removing the masks. And it was very clear in this letter we received from School Insurance Association of Washington that if we chose not to follow the state mandate, we would no longer have liability insurance. And, as a school district, we can't take that risk for sure. Also, the funding, I do have confirmation from ESD 113 and OSBI Office Superintendent of Public Instruction that if we chose not to hold up the mask mandate, that they would proceed with withdrawing funding from the school district. So, thank you.
Was there anything else, Sandy, that you felt like ought to be mentioned in that in particular?
No, I thought you did a very good job, and I appreciate you, reiterating that for people that may not have been aware. This would be a good opportunity to review those points. The other one is that bargaining units wouldn't necessarily be bound by a school board action either, because of the
Correct.
same legal ramifications. They've got to protect their certifications and their members and abide with L&I and a bunch of other legal ramifications too. So I do appreciate you going over those again for anybody that might be watching.
Yes, I even spoke with Tim Garcha, the director of WASDA, and he was giving an example of, if a second grade teacher was uncomfortable, like if the school board voted to do away with masks at any given time before the mandate was up, and we have employees that are uncomfortable because of whatever reason, safety reason that is, they could file a lawsuit against the school district for compromising their safety and asking them to go against the current state law. So there's just a lot of different things that go into this. I will reiterate that school board members certainly can have their own opinions about whether they agree or disagree with the mask mandates. We just cannot do a vote that would make something an illegal action for our school district. And I'm very excited that we do have a date in mind for that. I've got a school nurse that I know very well who's been very happy during recess to see, student faces as she's out on the playgrounds. And I think that, during this transition time, we need to be respectful for people that do choose to still wear masks. We do have immunocompromised staff and families, and they may feel the need to continue to wear masks even when it comes off. So I think that that's something that we need to be aware of. And I know that from the emails that went out to families, that there still will be masks available when this does come down as well too. So are there any other questions or anything else any board members would like to say regarding the superintendent report or Robert's report? I'm not seeing anything, so we will move into community comments. So let me read the standard language that we have around community comments. As part of a regular school board meeting, the board invites community members to make public comments in person and/or by phone as conditions allow by calling 1-253-215-8782 and entering meeting ID number 872-5618-1978. Our public comment procedure allows each person 3 minutes to speak, and comments will be heard during the community comment period, as listed on the agenda. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the board is not allowed to discuss items not on the agenda, but may direct the superintendent to follow up on issues that arise during public comment. Please be mindful of how you present your testimony, as the board will not allow complaints against an individual staff member or student in open session, unless that individual has requested an open public hearing. Please follow the public comment procedure by stating your name when recognized by the board chair. Do we have any public comments at this time? I'm not seeing any phone-in numbers. And Scott, I ask this every single time, but is it *6 to unmute and *9 to raise your hand?
Exactly.
I've written it down, so if I got it right this time, I've got it in my notes now forever. So we'll pause for just a few more minutes and see if anyone else is calling in. I'm still not seeing any phone numbers come up. All right, seeing none, we are going to move on to Section 5, reports and recognitions. So the first report is 5.01. This is our report from student school board representatives. And I do see Quinn Martin on here tonight. So Quinn, if you are able to unmute and give us a report on Cedar, we would love to hear from you.
Absolutely.
So in the last couple of weeks, Cedar has been moving forward extremely well with projects developing along with the midterms. Right now, we're heading into finals, of which vary highly depending on the teacher and class. But for a couple examples, we've got people planning on raising an ant farm to study ecology and local wildlife, along with people designing cinema films and a couple people learning to animate using HTML. Other than that, we're heading into changing our school constitution, which has been developing quite rapidly and well. With a couple checks, it should be out before, I'd say, at the beginning of third try. We've got all of our clubs officially met, and they are sending representatives to the Asb, which recently had a meeting with both the leadership class and with our Cedar ambassadors, which are the people who go to other schools and sometimes other districts to tell people about what Cedar is about and try and get us some fresher next year.
All right, great. Thank you, Quinn. And then I also believe I saw Richard Beckman on here.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm here. Good evening. And so at Sheldon High School, we just want to start off. This is one of the things we talked about at the ASB meeting today. Something that I thought I'd talk about here. We just want to say thank you to all of the club advisors at SHS and just kind of bring that out into the community and the board, because just after COVID, a lot of the clubs died down, and the advisors and everybody there has been working really hard to build back up their clubs. And so thank you to the advisors of Deca and Skills USA and German Club and Theater and Game Theory and Robotics. Those have all been clubs that have been building themselves back up and growing in numbers at SHS, which is something that's great. And it's great to see, and we appreciate all the hard work that they've been putting in, and we'd love to see support from the community and all sorts of stuff. So we just wanted to mention that. And then academically, the end of the trimester is approaching, so we're getting ready for finals and preparing and studying stuff like that. Not nearly as interesting stuff as Cedar's doing. We're not raising any ant farms or filming anything, but we are getting ready for biology finals and math. So I guess that's fun. And then also I would like to bring up that the Deca Club at Shelton High School is going to state competition March 3rd. So that's exciting, and good luck to the Deca or the Deca chapter.
That is exciting. Thank you for giving us your update as well, Richard. And I'm not seeing Audra on here tonight. So if she happens to join later, we will definitely catch up with her and get a student report from Choice. But if not, we will hear that another time. Do any board members have any questions or comments for our student reps?
No.
All right, I'm not seeing any, so we will move on to item 5.02. This is the school improvement plan for Choice High School with Marianne Marshall and Stacy Anderson.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Stacy Anderson. I'm the principal at Choice. And Marianne, did you want to say anything to start off with, or should I just jump in?
Just go ahead and proceed.
Okay. Well, good evening, President Davidson and all of the board members. It's really nice to be here tonight. There's, I think, 3 new board members since I presented last. So welcome to the Shelton School District School Board. And good evening, cabinet members, union leadership, and other folks who are on tonight. So it's my privilege to present about Choice School tonight. And just for a brief update for people that may not know a lot about Choice, Choice does serve students in grades 7 through 12. In the past, we've gone all the way down to kindergarten, but those are our current grade bands, and we're located downtown near the Safeway in the old Evergreen Elementary building. And this year we have about 165 students enrolled. So to get into our goals for this year, our first one is related to graduation rates, and this has been a goal for a long time at Choice. So by the end of this year, our goal is for the 4-year graduation rate to reach 50%, the 5-year rate 55%, and the 6 to 7-year rates at 60%. And that may not sound very high, but I do want to just mention that at Choice, we tend to have students who struggle with maybe being a little behind in credit, I did some data about 2 weeks ago, and 80% of my students were credit deficient right now. So we get a lot of students who come in needing to gather some credits, and they work very hard to do that. So do our teachers. So our graduation rate improving is always one of our goals. Kind of pre-pandemic, we were moving in a really great trajectory. And in 2019, we had 41% on-time graduation rate, which was actually the highest we had had in the whole time I've been here as principal. 57% for our 5-year rate, and then we were up over 70% for our 6 and 7-year rate. The first year of the pandemic, we had our highest rate ever, which is a little artificial based on some of the policies that year. We were up at 60%, and then last year we were 37%. So we do a lot of things at Choice to work on our graduation rate. One of the biggest things this year has been to really work on our advising system. One of the strengths of Choice, as reported to us in our school climate surveys by our students and through lots of different measures, is that we're a small community and students feel known. So we really do emphasize our advisory system. Students have advisory every day for half an hour. And one of the things we do during that time is make sure they really understand where they stand with credits, how to look at their grades regularly, how to do credit recovery. We worked with some grant money that we had to work with our staff to really get better and better at becoming advisors. We have the high school and beyond plan that's required for all seniors. Our advisors have been working very hard on that with their students. We also have a Gear Up grant where we have some supporting staff that help with that too. And then there's some acronyms in here on this plan. WSLP, because we are an alternative school and we're funded a little differently, every student has to have a written student learning plan. So our school is very individualized. While students might take 5-period day classes similar to Shelton High School or Cedar, they each have an individual plan that they're working on every month with their advisor. So that really is a place too, where they get to meet with their parents and their advisor and the student, and they work on how am I going to recover the credits that I'm behind on. A lot of what we do here too is motivation. You know, a lot of the students come to us and they're discouraged. And so trying to help kids want to be here, not drop out, give them a reason to stay in school. Another one of the strategies is that we do have lots of credit recovery options. We have Fuel Ed as an option. We also have some paper and pencil type contracts students can do. We have tutoring available at after school and on Wednesdays, which is our day that we don't have regular classes. And then we have a lot of structures in place to support the students. We have a senior support class, so all of the seniors are enrolled in that right now, and they're working on getting their graduation requirements done that are in addition to their credits. So those are things like their high school and beyond plan that I mentioned before. They have to do an exit presentation. We require our students to apply for scholarships and apply to college, even if they're not planning to go to college, so they know how the process works. And we really encourage them to do the FAFSA. So all of those things are in place for our seniors. As you've probably heard from the other schools, we also do multi-tiered systems of support. So we have rewards for students for everything from improving their credits to passing all their classes to strong attendance. And then we have tiered support set in place for all of our students too, so that students that are really struggling get those supports. And if you've seen those MTSS peers before, where kind of it looks like a little pyramid and the bottom layer is supposed to be your tier 1 and probably about 70% of your school, Choice is flipped upside down often. So we have right now 80% of our students who are needing those extra strong supports because they are behind in credits. And then we have about 20% of our students on track with credits. So we definitely know that we are in a lot of ways an intervention school. And just because a few of you are new to the district board too, I will mention that Choice offers several options for students. We do have a small middle school program with 15 students in 7th and 8th grade. But then we do offer the district's online option, and we're trying to move more towards that being a hybrid option where students have to come in at least 1 day a week, but they can do the rest of their studies online. Our data just shows that the online studies are not as successful as the in-person studies for most students. So I'll move on to a few photos here. So for some reason, almost everybody in here is doing the thumbs up sign because they were happy when I took their pictures. But over here on the left, we have a picture of a student who actually didn't graduate until I think it was about August 30th last summer. We took that picture. So one thing that we do for Choice is we do summer school. We have teachers working with kids right up to the last day to try to get as many kids graduated as possible. And all the schools have summer school. But because of the waivers the state has the last couple of years for the pandemic, they have until August 31st to get those credits done and to still use waivers. And if they miss it September 1st, they have to do 4 more credits. So we want to make sure we give them that opportunity. We also have the Pathways program located on our campus, which is a transition program for students with special needs, grades 18 to 21. So this is one of our students here. She's working out in the garden, and that's pretty exciting. And then, one of the things we do at Choice is just small class sizes. You'll see a few students working together here collaboratively on a math project. We do some team teaching. These are two of our teachers over here that are team teaching a U.S. History English combined course, and that's really designed to keep students' interest up and also help them perhaps earn some dual credit. And then just another happy kid there working on their stuff. And would you guys like to answer questions at the end, or should I pause between the two slides for questions? Any preference?
Either way, Stacy is fine if you want to go on.
All right, well, I'll just keep going. And if you have questions, you can hold them till the end, I guess will be the easiest. So our second goal is related to attendance. And our goal is over 70% for our attendance. And right now we are sitting at 73.89%, which is, meeting our goal for our school. And one of the things that we do find at Choice is we have a lot of students who sometimes through their own decisions, but a lot of times through things that are outside of their control, they're not able to get to school every day. A lot of our students are in transitory housing. Many of them are having to work, some are parenting. So we really do work on incentives to help the students get their attendance up, especially for our older students. And then we do have a truancy coordinator that we're lucky to have for a couple hours a day who works with our students, calls them, makes contracts with them to try to help them encourage to be to school. Everything from, if you get here this many weeks in a row, you'll get a gift card to here, to sometimes she goes a little more heavy-handed with them, and if you're not coming to school, I'll be filing truancy on you. She's really great at helping them understand that. The advisors also talk to students about attendance every time they meet with them at their check-ins once a month. And then part of the big way that we try to have increased attendance at Choice is just having a small class size and keeping that school culture really positive. A lot of times our data doesn't reflect it maybe in our test scores or our graduation rates, but when you look at the school climate data, Choice always scores very high in the anti-bullying categories, the safe school categories. We get a lot of students that come to Choice, not because they're behind in credit, but they just want a smaller setting. And a lot of them report to us that they felt a little lost in the bigger schools, or that they were feeling like they were bullied and harassed, and not that the other schools aren't addressing it, but it's just when you have one hallway, it's a lot easier to catch what the kids are doing with each other. So again, the structures that are in place is we do have the monthly check-ins and those daily advisories. We have Canvas, which we're really excited the district has a contract for this year, which the teachers have been learning this year. And it really is great in the pandemic because it's a student management system, or I'm sorry, not a student management system. It's a delivery of their coursework that a student can, especially say they're home for a 2-week quarantine or something, they can hop in, see their classes, get their work done from home. And then we also offer Fuel Ed for credit recovery and credit accrual at Choice. And then I already talked a little bit about the MTSS, the rewards and tiered supports. So in the SIP plan, we're highlighting just a few of the things we're doing. We are a school in improvement from OSPI. So we do have some extra requirements as far as our school improvement plan and also some extra support from the state. So I could go on and on with all the other pages of stuff we have, but that's the brief overview. And here are some of our students here. Just wanted to highlight a few things. Again, we have a little greenhouse and a garden that's outside near Evergreen between our campus and theirs. And also here's some of our students from the Pathways program. We have a partnership with Hope Garden, and these guys are out planting seeds. This was one of the first days of school over here, and I was really proud that Choice got the award for following the mask safety really well. And I've had kids transfer from other schools and basically told me, wow, you're hard on us down here. Well, again, one hallway, it's easy to see when they're not following the rules, but we really do take that seriously. And this was the first day of school when kids were doing a scavenger hunt. And so we try to do group activities where they can really build that sense of community. Again, the small class sizes, so they can work on collaboratively with each other. This is a couple of our seniors here and then a few underclassmen. And then we do a big winter celebration every year. This year, the last 2 years, because of the pandemic, it's been a little smaller. This is some of our students gathered together with a former teacher who comes in and gives a little cheer to the kids. So yeah, just a few pictures of our students, and just to tag along with, I think it was the representative from Shelton High, I think it was Richard, who was saying, the pandemic affected a lot of things, including our clubs and our activities. So, we finally got our clubs up and going again here recently. Kids are getting excited about things that they want to do. And you'll hear from Cedar High School next, which pretty excited about what Cedar's doing. And for those of you that know, the last couple of years, there's been some transition from having 2 high schools in the district to now having 3, which is just awesome. So Choice is in a little bit of a place of finding our identity and making sure we know who we're serving and why we're here. And we're pretty excited to feel like we're getting a little back to normal now as we're moving into the spring. So I will stop there. Any questions for me regarding Choice?
Yes, Stacy, I had a question from the first slide when you were talking about the online program. How many people are in that online program?
Great question. So right now we have about 50 students in the online. When we, kind of the history of it, last spring, we had decided as a district, we were going to run a 3rd through 12th online school. We planned it all out. We had no enrollments as of July 1st. So we kind of pivoted, went a different direction, and we decided we would run the online component from Choice. So we had about 50 students sign up in the fall. That included 7th through 12th graders. And we've had a wait list for a lot of the year of more students who wanted to get in. But our goal for next year is probably to hold at about 30 students, but just because we've found this year a lot of kids, they think it's going to be the right fit. And after a couple months, we can see it isn't. So we've moved a lot of the kids from that online program back into the regular program. Once their families felt like, okay, it's probably safe for them to be in school. It was mostly families who were nervous about the pandemic.
Okay, thank you for that information.
Yes, Stacy, this is Marilyn Ward.
Hi.
Thank you for your presentation. I was just wondering, how many students do you have all together at the school?
We have about 160 right now enrolled, which I'm proud of because I think Brenda had budgeted us for less than 100. So we had good enrollment this year. Now, Choice in the past used to be up around 300, but we definitely, I think, made a great plan with our last superintendent and having the start of Cedar High School, and some of the students that might have gone into Choice in the past are going to Cedar, along with some of the kids that might have gone to Sheldon High are going to Cedar. So you'll hear about that from Amber, though. I don't want to steal her info.
Okay, thank you very much.
Stacy, this is Sandy. I'll jump in here
Hi, Sandy.
with, I didn't realize we had resumed working with Hope. I'll bet the students are very excited to be back in the gardens. So very good.
Yeah.
And for tutoring specifically and for math, is Math Motivators able to help at all with that? Or is that strictly over at Shelton High School? They've not.
That's a great question. I believe we explored Math Motivators a couple years ago, and I don't recall all the details of that pre-pandemic. But I know that for a while we weren't having the volunteers in. We did have a couple of great volunteers from Skookum Rotary that are interested in coming back. So it's probably time I check into that and check with Math Motivators too, because I'm guessing we're at the point when we can bring some more volunteers back in.
All right. Thank you. And maybe for the benefit of, again, new board members, just review a little bit about my school data, how
Sure.
that works. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd love to. So My School Data is a really neat program that the state has put out in conjunction with our student management system, Skyward. And so in that system, the students go in and they lay out what's called their high school and beyond plan. And they're supposed to start it really in middle school and think about it all the way through their senior year, which sometimes kids balk at. They're like, why do I have to think about my future now? But in that system, it's got a lot of opportunities for them to look at different career choices, colleges. And then they have to fill out certain portions where they fill out, what am I interested in? What's my career path going to be? They have to choose, 3 potential career paths, 3 colleges that they might want to be interested in. Those could be technical schools too. And in there, it also shows them their graduation requirements, where they are with their credits. There's a place to put their test scores in. So it's really a place where the student and parent can look together at the plan along with the advisor and the counselor. And by state law, the counselors have to sign them off every year. And the parents do too. So the students have to be, keeping up to date with that. And by the time they graduate, they really need it to be complete so that they can share it at either their exit presentation that some schools do, or Other schools do it a little differently in each school, but it is a state requirement that you could have all of your credits, all of your tests passed, but if you haven't done your high school and beyond plan, you technically can't graduate. So it's an important component. We used to do it with binders years ago. Brenda used to buy them for us and we try to pass them from school to school, but the great thing is now it's electronic. That doesn't mean every kid has been in it necessarily or really had success with it. We're still implementing it in the district, but the kids I've talked to seem to mostly enjoy it. Sometimes it feels like a hoop, but I think it's a pretty good system for them to keep track of their stuff.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Stacy. This is Martin.
Hi, Martin.
Just a question. I'm trying to be consistent with all the presentations so I get a constant flow of information. But one of my big concerns is school safety, especially post-pandemic. And I just kind of coined a new phrase that when the children are robustly externally expressing their inner frustrations.
Yes.
How is it, within your plan? How are you addressing it? Because I know. Honestly, I've not heard any negative from my my community that I deal with about choice. I always hear very positive things. So I'm not as concerned as some maybe the other facilities. But how are you guys addressing this so we can minimize any student on student issues or student to teacher issues?
That's a great question. I will say in my career, this has been the toughest year for me and for my staff and for the kids. Harder than last year by far. And we've had more fights this year than any year that I've ever been principal. That being said, we know a lot of the reasons. We have a lot of systems in place to try to support the kids. And a lot of what we're doing is a lot more proximity, a lot more being out in the halls, even than we had been before. At every passing period, we have 4 staff in the one hallway. And honestly, something I just put in place starting tomorrow is that one person in the bathroom at a time, because we're having a lot of issues in the bathrooms. Stereotypes of choice in the past, I'm really glad to hear you haven't heard, negative things, because sometimes in a community, the alternative school kind of has that stereotype. And generally our kids are amazing. We have a really strict fighting policy where if a student fights, they have to come present to a group of staff in a restorative manner to get back into the school. And they know that that's whether they were the instigator or just a participant or the videotaper of the fight. So we've got some things in place. It's way better right now than it was first trimester. A lot of kids coming back, trying to figure out where their place was, and a lot of cell phone issues because they were on their devices for 2 years without people always being there to stop them, So it's kind of human nature, but I feel like we're really getting it. We just restarted our leadership program. We just restarted our clubs, and some of that's the piece too. You can have those more punitive things where you're monitoring, but you really want the positives and the reasons why the kids are here and how they bond with each other, because that's the real thing that's going to keep them from honestly wanting to get in a fight is if they're having that bond with one another. In addition to that, we have similars to all the buildings. We've got our, lockdown drills and our doors locked and things like that. So.
Good, thank you. Well, I appreciate that. As we've shared, it's been a very challenging season since the COVID through and how we're dealing with these different incidents. And I'm watching it with our young children within daycares and how it's transitioning. And I'm seeing improvements. I'm just very thankful that you've identified, pre-addressed it, and you're taking the actions. And President Davidson and I have shared sometimes about how do you balance the consequences with the positives? And it sounds like you guys got a great plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's a great question. I appreciate it.
I have a quick question. So I see there, the target graduation rate would be up, to whatever it was. And talking about your metric of, people feel good, they feel safe and all that when they're there. To be more congruent with the upcoming strategic plan, how do they feel as far as they're being prepared for life after high school? What kind of success rate are you looking at there?
That's a great question. I mean, and I'm pretty upfront and honest. I feel like we had that pretty well dialed in about 4 or 5 years ago, where we had 7 programs running here. We had the ability to help students find just the right program for themselves, one that was focused on more careers after high school, one that was really focused on a 4-year college preparation. We're in a little bit of a rebuilding phase right now, and I would say there's 2 factors. One is we're rebuilding as a school, and we definitely have some pieces in place. Students can be prepared for a 4-year college here. For But the direction we really want to go is to make sure that right now, most of the students we have don't want to go four-year college. They're interested in two-year, they're interested in tech school. We have a great Gear Up grant that helps with that. So we do virtual field trips, we do career fairs, all of that type of stuff. But we really want to get better internships lined up for our students, job shadows, things like that, to get them really connected in the community. We have a volunteer requirement at Choice, 75 hours that you have to do some service to your community before you graduate. So that's a big piece of it. So some of it's definitely on our staff as we rebuild a bit of our vision. The other portion of it is a lot of the pandemic. You know, we have a lot of discouraged kids right now, especially the junior class who, you know, they barely got started in high school before they went remote. And those kids are way behind in credit that we have. And they're kind of discouraged. And some of them are like, why bother? You know, I'm hearing way more kids than ever before. Well, I don't want to go to college because, you know, they're just going to be remote anyway. Why am I going to waste my money? And that's tech schools too. So it's a bit of an uphill battle right now, but we're excited to take it on. And we want those kids to leave here feeling like they're prepared. That's always been a big thing for Choice. It's not just, are you prepared for college or a tech school, but are you prepared to be a better citizen? And are you prepared to go out? And we know a lot of the Choice students stay in our community, you know, so we want them connected to things like Oyster Fest and, you know, community events that they can feel like they are part of the community. So it's a great question. And it's something we wrestle with at our school improvement meetings all the time.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments for Stacy at this time? I'm not seeing any. Stacy, thank you so much for your presentation. I think Choice has always been such a strong school for the relationships and, like you were saying, the smaller learning environment that really gets to know the kids and knows what they need. I really appreciate hearing everything about it. I'm hopeful that we will continue to open up and, you know, you can get some of those internship programs, do more activities and clubs. And I'm also personally hoping maybe the haunted house can come back at some point. So
if I could just make one final comment. Thank you.
Yes.
President Davidson, just the final comment. If you haven't had a chance yet, we welcome all the school board members at our graduation in June. You know, the biggest thing for Choice is that four-year grad rate is not always that high, but when you look at that those kids that come back for their 6th or 7th year and they're still pursuing it and they're graduating, and you know, we get to celebrate each of them at graduation. It makes it all worth it, and it kind of helps you see the people behind the numbers. So I hope you're all able to come, and you'll be getting an invitation soon. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much. We do have it on our calendar. So for any board member that's able to make it, I know personally I will be there. I haven't missed one yet. So I'm excited for that. All right. Now I think our next school improvement plan, if I can pull up my computer and see my agenda here, we do have 5.03, the school improvement plan for Cedar High School with Amber Hosford.
All right, I will try to, let's see. You guys see my screen okay? Okay. Marianne, did you want to say anything first? Okay. All right. Good evening, Madam President Davidson and distinguished members of the board. Thank you for having me tonight. I will tell you, this is actually my first presentation to the school board, so don't mind me if I'm a little nervous. In front of kids and parents, it's okay, but you know, there is something to be said about, you know, your board. So just be patient with me as I move through this. So my name is Amber Hosford. I have met some of you, and I am the principal at Cedar High School. This is my first full year as principal. I was previously assistant principal at Choice, as well as counselor there. So if you don't know much about Cedar, we are the brand new kind of school for Shelton School District. This is our second year. So if you kind of do the math, we opened during the middle of a pandemic when nobody could talk to each other, and we had masks, and you had to tell people you existed when you couldn't tell anybody anything because you were isolated. So it's been quite a journey. We are actually located on the Olympic College campus. We have a great partnership with Olympic College, so we can help students as they move forward with that pathway, if that's the pathway that they choose, on going on to a two-year college or tech schools and things like that. And I'll kind of tell you a little bit more about what that looks like. The other thing about Cedar, I'm just giving you some background in case you don't know much about us. We are part of also a network called the New Tech Network. So where we really focus on the whole child. So we really focus our grading on not just, your basic knowledge and thinking, but also on oral communication, written communication, agency, and collaboration. So students learn all of those things. We also do interdisciplinary and project-based learning is our main focus. So as you can imagine, being a brand new school, and having started last year, we don't have much of a baseline. And so we're really establishing what that baseline is going to look like. So when we decided as our school improvement team met together, we decided obviously the most important thing for our students is that they graduate from high school. We know graduation matters. So we decided one of our goals was going to be regarding around graduation. At this point, we decided that we wanted 70% of our current seniors will complete all requirements for graduation. And part of that is because we know that there's a lot of gaps, whether we want to call it, just those learning gaps for students because of the pandemic. So we know we have a lot of areas that we can improve. We have some waivers available and things from students, but there were also some students who just didn't have the opportunity during the pandemic. And there's been a loss of, learning for some of those students that we're really working hard to catch up on those. So some of the strategies that we have in order to help our seniors get towards graduation is once a month, our senior class advisors meet with, do conferences with students and guardians. They review their graduation requirements, make sure that they know where they are on track. They talk about any credit recovery plans that the students may need. We do offer fuel ed as needed for students. We talk about their course progress to see how they're progressing in their classes. We use a program called ECHO, which is part of the New Tech Network that really evaluates students on all of those 5 learning outcomes that I mentioned earlier. So it's not just based on their test scores. And students and families, as well as teachers, have access to all of that at all times, so they can go in and log in and see their progress in their classes. And they also talk about their plans for after high school, so it's constantly being brought up. The counselor meets with all of our seniors to make sure that they review their graduation pathways. They look at secondary options for our students. They do seminars with our school's counselor. And Susie is our school counselor, and she does scholarship supports on Thursdays to help students make sure that they have that opportunity to earn, that money that is out there that we know we want our students in Mason County in order to get. So some of our systems and structures that we have in place are the monthly conferences, our post-secondary exploration services, our MTSS and SST meetings. We do involve student voice and choice in all of our school planning. In fact, it was so much fun today. We met about a culture day because as third trimester is progressing, we asked the kids, what do you want it to look like? How are we going to help reestablish this culture? What do we want to do? And kids came up with things like they wanted to be co-teachers for lessons. So they're going to take on some lessons. They wanted to actually teach classes to some of the other students. They wanted to do activities, outdoor activities. They wanted to make our learning rubrics fun and create lessons around it. So really, they're taking stuff that they want to do to build that culture. And they told us, and we had a really great learning session around that today. The other system is that we have after school tutoring sessions 2 days a week. And so students are able to come in. We're very lucky. We have a para who comes in. She's very good at math, which is very helpful. And she comes in 2 days a week and stays until from 2:30 to 3:30 and helps our students. It's pretty amazing. We have kids begging their parents for transportation so they can just stay and get extra tutoring. So it's pretty fun. So here's a couple of pictures just to kind of talk to you a little bit about what we're doing for our seniors. So this is what we do basically through our comprehensive counseling program. We work on our academic, social, and career and college readiness program. So you can see up here, right, our students are getting ready to fill out their college applications and their FAFSAs. So those are some things that our students are doing with help and support. We have lovely facilities at Olympic College if you haven't been up here. So it's we have a great place for students to do that. Down here, our counselor also has helped organize the ASVAB for students who need a career interest inventory or who are interested in doing the military. It also helps to meet one of the graduation requirements as an option for a pathway, if that's a pathway students are choosing. This is a class that is an Algebra 2 and an Ecology of the Pacific Northwest course that students are taking. This one was a couple of our students and seniors, obviously, we really try to make classes engaging, so students really want to be here. So this is they're learning about quadratic functions. And like I said, we do interdisciplinary courses. So you can tell this young student has a clipboard, they're doing measurements, they're shooting off rockets and things like that about quadratic functions. So this is a project of our students are giving back to the community. In one of their classes, we do a lot of student voice. So they did a pandemic recovery fair in the fall where we had, they brought in, I believe, about 15 vendors or local businesses, community members, partners, and put together what it would look like to help recover from the pandemic. Students this was a class combined between video production, computer applications, and health and wellness. So students created calendars, they created other activities. They got together and they raised, they got donations for hygiene supplies to help the community. We hosted it in the sub, at Shelton High School. And just another way to give back to the community. Students in this image are attending a virtual field trip on local trades, on trade schools. Thank you to Gretchen, who helped set that up for us and set that out for us. So our students were able to attend that. We had a pretty good turnout of students who were just looking at these like, oh my gosh, I can make that much money going into the trades, for the students who may not be as interested in college. This is Anthony. He is a gentleman from Olympic College. He comes down now every 2 weeks, and we really want to thank Olympic College for working with his schedule. So Anthony comes down, he hangs out with Susie and really gets to know our kids. And just by that relationship, he's really making it easy for kids to make that transition from Cedar High School or wherever they're attending to Olympic College, to that 2-year college pathway, if that's what they choose. So he answers questions. He has a little office over here. Kids are popping in. I had kids today. Is he here today? Is he here today? When will he be here? So it's really good. It's just a great partnership that we're establishing with that. And this is just a picture of Educating Rad Humans, is a shirt that Susie has on her sweatshirt, and it couldn't say it better. So this is a couple pictures about what we're doing with our seniors. Our next goal towards graduation is very much in line with that, as we know that we can't educate the kids if they're not here, right? So we know that attendance is really important. We decided that an attendance rate, we wanted to pick that it's going to meet or exceed 80%. Again, we're still trying to establish that baseline and what it's going to look like, because we didn't really have much of a baseline last year. Being online and then in person, for the last trimester just didn't really give us that data that we needed. Currently, right now, we are at about 70, as of last week, we were at 77.78% for attendance. One thing to note is that we are a school of 100 students. And so when you have one student out, whether they are excused or unexcused, it still counts in your attendance. And so that makes a really big difference. So it's not like a bigger school where you can have 3 kids out and it wouldn't affect that. But just something to consider when we're looking at the attendance rates. But our main thing is that we really want kids to be here. So some strategies that we have embedded right now is that we do have our ASB clubs, like Quinn mentioned. Our ASB clubs are up and running. We do group opportunities during the day to increase access. So all of our ASB clubs, almost all of our ASB clubs are run during lunchtime. And this allows more students to participate because they don't have to rely on transportation on their own after school. Sorry, I lost where I was. So we also have the small learning environment. We make our classes are interdisciplinary, and since we do focus on collaboration and teamed partnered learning, it really makes an impact if somebody's not there. So students are really learning their roles and what that looks like for each other. If you've ever done a project and you have to work with somebody else to complete that project, and they can't be there, and then they can't be there, it really is hard to complete that project. And so kids are really learning what that looks like. So systems and structures, we do in our office, we make daily personal phone calls, not just those robocalls, to any and all students who are absent. So during second or third period, we make those personal phone calls to home. We do MTSS interventions. So we do awards, we do conversations, we do celebrations. Like I said, we have our small class sizes, so everybody knows everybody. Our classes really focus on those projects. I talked about the learning outcomes, so we really try to address that whole child. And we have our daily advisory. Right now we have our daily advisory only for about 15 minutes, but it is enough to check and connect with our students and do some of that social emotional learning activities. They also have the same advisor, or will have the same advisor, for all 4 years. So it's really a time to create those strong relationships. And those, family conferences monthly with students and families. These are always my favorite slides because I get to share some pictures with you guys here. So this is the science lab. This is our teacher Kurt and some of our students. And right now they are identifying invertebrate species. And so in one of our classes, let's see, Ecology of the Pacific Northwest of Streams, Lakes, and Estuaries, they are taking water samples from the Olympic College wetlands right over here and looking at the invertebrate species that they can identify and how they impact Mason County and what impact it does have on us. Our students in this image just completed their EverFi lesson. Oh, I wrote every, that was a typo, I apologize. EveryFi, it's EverFi, autocorrect. So their EverFi lesson where they're learning their financial literacy. So they earned some financial literacy awards. Oh, this is so much fun. We had our Cedar ambassadors. They ran one of our students right here, Elena, she is doing what we're calling, it's kind of a capstone project, and she wants to be a school counselor. So she's taking on and running registration for us for helping getting students ready for the transition from 8th grade into high school. So she's gone around with her other team members, gone around to all the schools, the sending schools, and presented what that looks like. If you would have met Elena as a freshman, which I was fortunate enough to know, she would have been the one silently hiding in the back, not saying a word. And here she is at OBJ talking in front of the entire 8th grade class. So that's a pretty cool growth moment that I love to see. This is a group of our students doing the pandemic recovery fair. This is our summer orientation that we did last year for all of our students and families. We had a huge participation and engagement last year, so it was great to have students attend. Right here, this is students are out planting camas bulbs. If you know that land property right over by the YMCA that looks kind of bare right now, they are studying ethnobotany and how camas bulbs are essential to the area, and that they were an essential food source for our local tribes. And so they're replanting those in that area right now in order to rehabilitate it with our native plants. And then another kind of a community partner agreement we have our community agreements. And so students were just making representations out of little knickknacks that how do they represent our community culture agreements. I promise I'll go through these quick. I know I'm taking time, I apologize, but just talking about my kids makes me excited. So here's some things about Spirit Week. We just kind of played around. They're doing some photography out here. Oh, this one was super fun. One of our students asked, they said, hey, can we have Elf on the Shelf and put them around the school? So they brought an elf, or we got an elf, we put it around. Even the Olympic College security guard got in on the fun and hid the elf around, and our students were looking around for it. So again, just building that culture. Here's in our career choices class, students explored pathways of what they may or may not want to do to learn a little bit more about their courses or their future educations and what they may want to do. So they put together storyboards and did walkthroughs on what so they could see different careers. Every Friday we do dance parties outside before the bus comes. We haven't quite got enough students, that we've got a couple. They still look at us like we're a little crazy, but we as staff go out and do dance parties. During second trimester, we were able to bring Rigby onto campus. Rigby is Susie's dog, so he is our therapy dog. We worked really closely with Olympic College to make sure we brought him on campus. Again, that is part of our counseling support for our students. Students made videos using drones, so this is a couple of our students doing that. Part of our new tech network, they have different protocols that we use in order to help the learning, and this is because space is limited just because of our campus right now. They participated, right now they're doing a card sort activity to study about nutrition. And because we do lead by example, this is, I didn't want to focus on us as a staff, but this is one of our collaborative activities that we do together in order to model that for our kids. So, so that is a little bit about Cedar High School. What questions can I answer for you?
Yeah, thank you, Amber. And board members, feel free to jump in with questions.
Well, I'll be consistent, Amber. Do you find that being on the campus at Olympic College, does it provide you a different environment that provides supports your safety plan for our students?
Yeah, that's a great question. As far as like safety planning goes, we definitely follow the safety plan of the Olympic College as far as those actual plans. They have, safety procedures in place. We modify them obviously to meet the needs of our school district, and John Holbrook and Robert have been great about working with us on that. I will have to say, we are very fortunate. Our kids, we have not had any fights on campus. I can't tell you that we've really had, we have some of the little social emotional drama and things like that, but we really work hard to be proactive with our students and work on those relationship pieces and really get student voice. And so we've been really lucky in order to have the small environment in order to be able to do that. So, yeah. Another thing really quick, we do also have just to tag on to that a little bit more, is we do have our leadership team. We have our Cedar ambassadors. And so just trying to get more voice from those students who may not typically have voice in it. Any other questions?
This is Sandy. I'll hop in next.
Excellent.
Does the after-school bus serve Cedar?
Yes, it does. We do have transportation, and so our students, it comes at 4:30, and so because the college is here, they have their own security guard, and so students are able to stay, if they are here for tutoring, they can stay and continue to work on some of those things until the bus comes.
Okay. And is there a community service requirement to graduate, like at Choice?
We do not have, well, I take that back. Because we're still in those stages, one of the classes we are working on right now is a capstone project. We don't have the 75 hours for the credit, but we do have a capstone project we're working on developing with Gretchen that would be a requirement for our students to graduate. That would include community partnership.
All right, thank you.
And I will jump in. I just wanted to say, great presentation. That was really thorough. And it was really nice to just hear about all the hands-on projects and learning that the kids really do get to do. It sounds very empowering for the kids. So it's nice to see how Cedar is developing with that and really implementing all of that. I was lucky enough to attend one of the strategic planning meetings, so I did get to see, part of the area that the students and some of the offices are for all of you. And that just does seem like it's a great partnership with Olympic College to have that space up there. So I'm happy that all of that is also working out. I was curious about how long your lunch period is, because that always seems to be, you're saying that kids are doing clubs during that time, which I think is a great idea. But I know that lunch periods often are challenging at schools. They seem like there's not enough time, or students say that because they want to be more social than actually eating or whatever they're doing. So I was curious about how long of a period that is for them to be doing the clubs during lunch.
Yeah, our lunches are the same. We have 30 minutes for lunches because we don't have that big, huge lunchroom. If you've been to the strategic planning, you've been in our reading room. Our students walk through, grab their lunch and go. They eat in class. So they eat in the classrooms that they participate in as they're doing those. So they're definitely willing to give up their lunchtime, I guess, because otherwise they wouldn't have transportation per se, just because of the distance some of them live or other after school activities that they have. So
yeah, so it sounds like it's an agreed upon thing and just easy with the small group environment that they are.
And teachers choose to give up their lunch break for that too. So that's because it's all ASB. So Brenda's looking at me like teacher choice.
Are there any other questions or comments from any other board members at this time? I'm not seeing anything. So Amber, thank you so much for your presentation.
I'll jump in with one last question, and it's really more for Quinn. Quinn's a student at Cedar.
Yes.
So I'm wondering about the co-teaching part. Is that of interest to you to co-teach, or are you enjoying having a student co-teach any of the classes you're already in?
Well, I think for the co-teaching, it's not necessarily for an entire class. Relative, it's for a specific day. Specifically for introducing new students to Cedar, and for getting our second try students who joined that didn't have a Cedar Culture Day kind of looped in. But I think it's a great idea. I was there when it was proposed. And I think it's one of those things that shows that Cedar really is dedicated to student voice and student participation in a lot of these things. And I think there's a little bit of excitement amongst students hearing that, hey, actually, some of us are going to be at least not only organizing this, but helping to run it.
Thank you. And you've always been quite proficient at speaking. I would imagine this would be something that wouldn't intimidate you.
I'm not sure that I'm going to be doing it, but happy for those who are.
Well, thank you for sharing. I appreciate that.
All right, so seeing no other questions, I think we will close out reports and recognitions and move on to the consent agenda at this time. So as you can see, there's 5 different items there. These are your usual things, approving the minutes from the last meeting and several different warrants and the personnel report. Are there any questions, comments, or a motion?
I move that we adopt the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
All right, thank you. It's been moved and seconded to adopt the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. All right, hearing and seeing none, has passed. So now we can move on to discussion and action items. We've got one item under this tonight, which is 7.01. It's the proposed 2022-23 school calendar. And we've got Linda Arnold from our HR department and Brian Fair here to discuss this with us. And there is possible action for this tonight.
You're ready. Good evening, school board and others who are here this evening. Before we get started, I would like to say that Brenda's going to be my helper to share the calendar. I know you all got it in your packets. And Brian Fair, the teachers, Shelton Education Association president, is here to answer any questions along with myself. But what I'd like to do is present to you our proposal for the 22-23 school year calendar. It might look pretty familiar to you because it looks a lot like this year's calendar and the previous years and the previous years. So let me just give you a summary. I won't go over every single date, but in summary, the first day of school as proposed would be August 31st, and the last day would be June 9th. And then let me fill in a few blanks in between August 31st and June 9th. So this calendar would include 2 full weeks for winter break. Spring break would be the usual first week in April. And then we have the same number of early release days that we've had in the calendar for several years now for professional learning communities. So we present this to you tonight for consideration, but I guess I would ask if you have any questions about it.
No questions, Linda, but I know that one of the items that that was brought to my attention was that there is the holiday that's falling on Sunday, January 1st, and how that would get observed. And if you could go over that for the board.
You bet. So typically if a holiday falls on a Sunday, then we would recognize it on a Monday. But if we were to do that and recognize it on the Monday, then that means we got to find another date to add to the calendar. So instead, we've agreed that we would recognize it on Friday, the 30th. And when I say recognize it, what I'm really talking about is recognize it for year-round employees.
Okay. And then what I'm seeing there too is that in December, there is a full 2-week break for the holiday time.
Correct.
Are there any questions or comments about the school calendar?
I guess I have a question. Oh, Marty, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Sandy.
My question was, in light of, the reading scores we talked about, and I know that there's a lot in the strategic plan about things to change in the future. We've talked about the learning loss over the last couple of years. Is there a change here that, is geared in any way toward making up some of those deficits, the learning loss or the reading?
We haven't had that discussion that specifically, Sandy. What this calendar does reflect, though, we're required to have 180 days, but you look at those half days and wonder, well, do we have fewer half days so that maybe we can make up that learning time? I'm thinking might be where you might be going, but also keep in mind that the calendar start date and end date is somewhat extended in order to account for the required instructional hours. So we have 180 days that the calendar has to encompass, and then we have a minimum number of instructional hours. So those hours are there embedded in to this calendar, even though we've got these half days. And that change was made several years ago. I want to say maybe 5 or 6 years ago when we embedded the half days.
Yeah. And I know that, an average school day is pretty packed with, this amount of time for this amount of time for that. And so, just wondering where any additional time could come from to try and, make up some of the loss, change the trajectory. So
yeah, I think definitely a discussion that needs to be had, not even this year, but in coming years, I would think.
Yeah. Would the early release days that are 1.5 hours early, what would there be a possibility? Is there any feasibility to, maybe there's a half an hour there instead of an hour and a half early release, an hour early release, and have, an extra 30 minutes, every week. Is there a benefit to something like that?
I think if Brian wants to jump in here, but I'd like to preface it with this. For those hour and a half early releases, that allows our teachers time to plan together. And really the other side of learning is teaching. And if we also don't have the time to plan and become more excellent teachers, in the long run, our kids suffer there. So it really is a balancing act. But Brian, do you want to add anything to the value of those early release days?
I don't think so at this time. I think it's important to understand that the planning time needed by teachers work together as a department is probably one of the things that is very beneficial. So I hate to give up those planning times because teachers don't have a lot of time to plan and work together. So they're very beneficial to teachers.
And then consequently beneficial for student learning.
Linda, can I just tag on something there on that topic of Sandy's question? We are working on some summer programming, Sandy, math camps, reading type things to take care of some of that learning loss. So I think you'll see that happening this summer quite a bit to get those kids going again.
Very good. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks, Brenda. Did you have a question, Marty?
Are there any other questions about this, or I know it says possible action. Do we need to be voting to approve this school calendar? I know we typically do in February.
Yes, and just so you know, we have other school districts in the surrounding area that wait for us to get ours and then ours approved, and then they sort of form theirs after ours.
Okay. And then also, just because I know that we do have newer board members or community members, Brian Fair is not just my old math teacher, but you are also the union representation. I'm saying that correctly, aren't I? So the calendar is a joint collaboration between the school district and the union to agree with all of this. So this is what they've put forward to us at this point in time. I don't have any questions about it. It looks good to me. If it looks good to the rest of you and there's a motion that we could put forward tonight and approve this, we can get this set in stone for the next school year.
I would make a motion that we approve the calendar. It looks like a pretty standard fare. No pun intended.
I'll second.
All right. It has been moved and seconded to approve the proposed 2022-23 school calendar. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. Right, hearing none, the proposed calendar has passed. So now we go into the second period of time for community comments. And I am not seeing any new additions to our meeting. Is there anyone who's present that would like to make a community comment at this time? All right, hearing none at this point in time, I'm going to move into board member comments. And I'm going to start tonight with Matt Wielander, if you would like to kick us off with some board member comments.
Boy, I don't really have a whole lot tonight. I've been reading a lot of emails and been really busy that way. I'm actually surprised we don't have a lot of community comment. You know, be that as it may. The school improvement plans that we looked at tonight looked great. And the thing that I've really enjoyed last couple of weeks is reading all of the updates from the different principals and being able to see kind of what's going on there on those campuses. Otherwise, it's just looks like it's been really busy and everybody's working hard, and I don't have a whole lot to add. So thanks, everybody.
All right, thank you. Marilyn, would you like to make some comments this evening?
Yeah, I hope my connection stays okay because it's cut out a few times on me tonight. Yeah, I really don't have much either, just the same thing. I'm really happy with the emails from each of the schools, and I just hope they continue that. Am I cutting out? I feel like I am. No, okay.
No, you're just fine.
Everybody's frozen in my end. So, and I also really enjoyed the two principals tonight from the two Choice and Cedar. I didn't know much about those schools, so it was really, really interesting for me. I learned a lot. Thank you. That's about it.
Great. Thank you, Marilyn.
Thank you.
Sandy, do you have some board member comments tonight?
I'll use my time just as a brief legislative rep. And, we've had a couple of deadlines that have passed, so that's whittled down the list of bills that can be worked on. There's a couple of committee meetings yesterday. There's another one scheduled tomorrow in the House. But really the items that are going to come with dollars attached to them, the money items, those are going to be things that'll be debated as we get closer to the big deadline, once these budgets have been parsed out a little bit more and understood. So, just trying to monitor a little bit of what's going on, and no real news right now. So if anybody has any questions about any specific ones, I can, give you the links to that information, either through WASDA or through the ledge.wa site. Thanks.
Great. Thank you very much, Sandy, for that update on all of that. Martin, you are last up for board member comments.
Well, thank you. It has been an interesting week or so, as we've shared. The mask issue is something that I'm tracking very closely because, of course, with the in-home daycare, we got to follow the same stuff. And the range of actions that have been taken, my two grandchildren go to the Richland School District, where they did vote to terminate the mask mandate, and the superintendent closed the schools because she did not want to be in violation of law. I think, and I recommend it for some of the consideration, maybe the administration and the attorney. I know the document that they provided us is very detailed. I really appreciated that. If there's components of that could be reviewed to be shared, I would recommend that so that the community knows where we are constrained. I believe everybody understands where I come down on the mandates, as expressed last year during the vaccine issue. But the issue that I'm looking at now is that, and this is for the community and for the board as well, is that the courts have declined to declare the governor's mandates as unconstitutional, thereby making them the effective law. I don't agree with it, but that's the law. And as you mentioned earlier, Sandy, as a board member, I swore an oath both as a board member and as a veteran to uphold the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington and the nation. I don't always have the opportunity to agree with those. That's where we take our legislative and our democratic process and make those changes necessary. I have struggled with this, to be very honest with you. I laid here wondering, at what point do I, as a board member, have the right to break the law? And as a voter, I would never want anyone I elect to break a law. So that's a challenge. But as we sit here and we look at, and I'll just kind of paraphrase one section that says, a school board's discretionary power is expressly limited to adopting policies not in conflict with other law, RCW, and I won't list it all through there. Right there, it says that if we were to pass a resolution or a policy, it would be null and void because it's in conflict with the governor's law. Whether we agree with the law or not, it's what it is. I hope the community understands that we're trying to do the best we can. We're going to move forward as we can without penalizing our certified staff and our liability insurance, all the other things. I've learned one thing in my short period on the board is that nothing is as simple as you expect it to be. Nothing is as easy as you want it to be. And I'm learning to pace myself and to due diligence and to ask questions and to inquire. And so I appreciate President Davidson's our communications and sharing, and others that I've communicated with. We'll get through this. We'll keep smiling. And in the long run, I think we'll be a stronger community as long as we're transparent, as long as we're open with what's going on, and that it's not seen as something that we're doing willfully to deny anyone of their particular due process. That we as a board take our responsibilities, seriously, and that we're here to, like, my other big issue is safety. I mean, I continue to hear issues. That's why I bring it up each board report of fights and issues in the classrooms and stuff. So it's a very grave concern for me for safety. So I want to thank you for, I probably went a little long on this tonight, but I stressed that time, but I felt it was necessary to get that information out there that I share the passions of the community. You've seen the masks I wear. That's for my form of resistance, but it is what we have to do. Do I agree with it? It's, as an individual, I'll keep it to myself. And I thank you for the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. I actually really appreciate you, sharing all of your comments. That is one thing that each individual board member can always do. We continue to have our own First Amendment rights of freedom of speech, but as we make, decisions on things, just like you said, we do have to comply with state laws. And that legal analysis that we were given by our school council did consist of a lot of those RCWs, and maybe there are sections of that that would be worth posting out there, and that might be something to address with Wyeth when he's back in town. If that's something that whether that's posted out there, just what some of those what our duties are. And I appreciate you, bringing that up. I also have a friend who's an assistant principal in the Richland School District, and she shed a lot of light on what that situation was. And what I didn't want to happen in our community was that it really tore the community apart. And these items are very divisive because people are very passionate about them and they're frustrated. And I do understand that. What I hope that we can be as a board is to continue to work together and find ways. Each one of you have said it at different times, but find ways to, work through issues, even if we don't agree with each other. And we've been respectful with each other. We listen to each other. We continue doing that. And I hope we can, that is how we will move forward. And I hope we can model that for our community. The Shelton School District, to me, and one thing that I've cared about very much because I saw how it was difficult for my own children, was that it's been a priority to do in-person instruction. And what became clear is that if you go against the mask mandate, the only legal way to do school would be to do it remotely and for 2 weeks. I mean, it's like that was remote instruction, as we've even heard from one of the from Choice's, school improvement plan. They see that sometimes that's just really not as engaging for the kids as it was. And so I would hate to go back to that. I just want us to get through this period of time, and we will get through it. And I do very much appreciate our community. I even appreciate it when people send angry emails, because I know that they are sharing their concerns about their kids, and we all care about all of our kids and serving them as best we can. So I appreciate each and every one of you. I know that these times have not been easy. And I'm hoping that we truly are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel for it. I did want to remind everyone, we do have our study session on Monday, And at that meeting too, we will be discussing when it would be a good time to go back to in-person school board meetings. And we will be discussing the strategic plan amongst a lot of other things. I mean, moving up the budgetary process and the hiring process and doing the strategic plan to really focus on our priorities. There's a lot of things to work on that will improve our students. So I'm excited about that. Again, I just want to thank each and every one of you for your time that you give the community. I think we all as board members know exactly how much time that is more than anybody else, and how much time you even spend worrying about things and wanting to make the right decisions. So just thank you very much for that. We do not have an executive session tonight. There's no reason for that. So at this point, if there is a motion to adjourn, we can close the meeting.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Is there a second? All right. Thank you. It has been moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. Hearing
No.
and seeing none. Wait a second. So there's one no. You want to keep chatting? All right. This meeting is adjourned. I look forward to seeing the board members on Monday. So have a good weekend. Hopefully enjoy some of this sunshine while it lasts.